Good evening, everyone. Woo! My name is Geoff MacNaughton, and I am the lead programmer of Prime Time and the head of industry and theatrical here at TIFF. Today marks day one of the 2022 Toronto International Film Festival. We are back, and I missed this a lot. We couldn't be more excited to have the public and press and industry audiences joining us from around the world in person once again. The entire programming team has put together an incredible lineup, and I am honored to present the best in international and North American series. There are 7 series in the festival program this year, and each public screening will have an extended Q&A that follows it. So stick around. When putting together this lineup, I could not think of a better way to open the program than with the world premiere of the 5th season of The Handmaid's Tale. A sincere thank you to our lead and major sponsors, Bell, RBC, and Bulgari, and Visa for their continued support. Thank you to the supporters, including the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, the City of Toronto, and Telefilm Canada. This series is eligible for the People's Choice Awards, so vote for your favorite films and series at tiff.net/vote. There you go. You heard it there first. We would like to thank Hulu and Crave for providing us with this series, so thank you very much. There are many reasons why Toronto is the perfect place, and now is the perfect time to premiere The Handmaid's Tale Season 5. First, the series was adapted by Canadian literary icon and possible clairvoyant Margaret Atwood. Second, the series was shot in Toronto and all across Ontario. It feels like it's ours in so many ways, so just a little bit at least. And third, but most importantly, now more than ever, we need stories like this one. Stories that dive deep into the brutal realities of what it means when reproductive rights are ripped away from people fighting to survive a system hell-bent on breaking them down. And now, without further ado, to introduce the 2 episodes you are about to see, please help me in welcoming to the stage creator Bruce Miller, executive producer Warren Littlefield, and lead actor and director of the episodes, Elisabeth Moss. Go ahead.
That one.
Yeah.
You can go to the podium.
Hi, everybody. It's incredibly lovely to be here because we shoot here. And this is our home. And so everything you see, I think this year, every single thing you see is from Toronto and the environs. Thank you guys so much for having us here. The writers are here. If you guys could wave your hands. The cast is here. Wizzy is here. And Ward is here. So enjoy, and afterwards we're going to be up here to answer your questions. So thank you very much.
We love you, Toronto. Really good to be here. I want to just say we have extraordinary partners in this venture at Hulu and at MGM. We give them heart attacks on a regular basis, and generally they respond with love. So we thank them for their tremendous support, and it is with a great deal of pleasure that I bring forth my partner, our director, executive producer and star, Lizzie Moss.
I just want to say really quickly a thank you to Toronto and to TIFF, but especially to the crew in Toronto that we've had the pleasure of shooting with for the past 5 seasons. And so many incredible cast comes from Toronto, and I'm so grateful to you guys. We all are. It's been an incredible experience shooting here, so thank you so much. Appreciate it. I have nothing else to say except for this.
All right, good. Well, please welcome to the stage
gentlemen.
Elisabeth Moss,
Elisabeth
O.T.
Moss,
Fagbenle, Yvonne Strahovski, Bradley Whitford, Sam Yeager, Amanda Brugel, Warren Littlefield, and Bruce Miller.
Right out. We're going to share mics. Sharing mics. Right out, sit next to the person after you.
Thank you.
I think this is a record amount of people for the stage, but it's the perfect series to do it with.
I'm going to do my Be Real. So can you guys say hi? Thank you. My kids.
I wanted to start with Elisabeth. As the director of these episodes, what does it feel like to see these on the screen in front of an audience?
It's pretty intense. I do have to say, though, I mean, thank you so much to TIFF and to the Lightbox, because a lot of these guys are directors, and I think they understand the picture and sound and everything is so incredible, and the theater is just so conducive to the absolute best possible experience. So thank you for that. I'm very grateful for that.
I wanted to also ask you about kind of your work behind the camera, specifically throughout the series, and your relationship with June. So, when you started as producer and, lead actor in the series, and then when you started to become the director, you started directing in season 4, I believe, and then these 2 episodes as well. How has your relationship with June and your character changed over time because of that?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that I always wondered if it would distract me from the performance or it would distract me from acting, and I was actually very happily surprised to learn that I felt deepened my understanding of the character and deepened my understanding of June, because normally, I mean, to be honest, when I'm just acting, I don't really pay much attention. I don't really do any thought or anything like that, which you're supposed to do. But when you're a director, you do all kinds of stuff, and you have to think about it, and you have to do prep, and you have to talk to the writers, and you have to talk to the actors, so you have to do all this work. So I found that I actually did a lot more work as an actor being a director. So I did find a deeper understanding of the character.
I feel like your acting process has just been spoiled with everyone now.
No, it's the truth.
Bruce and Warren, you've been shooting in Ontario and Toronto since the beginning of the show. How does it feel like to screen the series in Toronto for Toronto audiences?
I've been down in Los Angeles, and these people have been making a television show, and Toronto has been making a television show, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the crew that we have here and the who work with the cast. So it is the show. Toronto is the show, not just kind of because we actually physically take place in Toronto, which is nice that we don't have to fake it for something, but it is. Toronto is the show, so it couldn't be any better than to be here, especially at the beginning of the season.
All Ontario, really. And, we're not set in a precinct. We're not set in a hospital. We are on the road. We are out there. We have a footprint at Cinespace, and we have a couple of stages, but we're nomadic. And so we are using every bit that Ontario offers and gives us. And that sometimes means overnights. It's a lot of travel. We do work in the wintertime, but we love it, and we're very grateful.
I will say it is so refreshing to see Toronto play itself. Many times Toronto is playing characters in other people's films, and it's, as a Torontonian, thank you for making Toronto a character in this. Yvonne, in many ways, Fred, brilliantly played by Joseph Fiennes, carried the heavy weight of being the big bad villain for 4 seasons. And at the beginning of season 5, you feel like you're taking a bit of the weight that he left behind?
Pressure.
Yeah, how does it feel to have that additional weight on your shoulders? And do you feel like the lines between right and wrong, good and evil, have become blurred without him around?
Jeez, okay. I'm going to dissect that.
Well, maybe start with the first one of just like the weight of Joseph Fiennes' character being gone, Fred being gone. Do you feel like you are the new villain?
Look, I'm not afraid of that pressure. I feel happy to take it on, even though I miss Joe. I really miss Joe. And about you guys, they all hated him. No, I love it. I love Joe, and I really miss him. No, but all jokes aside, it is really fun to play this character, and there's so many juicy things to do with this character. This is a exciting setup for this season, but I would say, don't let it fool you, because we really had an opportunity to really, really, truly explore the, dare I say, Juliet and Juliet love affair that is the June and Serena relationship this year to new heights and new depths, I will say. So I've really loved it. It's been extraordinary.
Amanda, your character Rita has a complex relationship with Serena and June and has found herself in the midst of this power struggle. Where do you find Rita at the beginning of this season, and where do we see her go?
I'm holding the mic with my wrong hand, and it's upsetting me, so just let me switch it. Okay, there we go. Now I can answer you. The beginning of this season, I find, and I'm so thankful to the writers and Bruce, that Rita finally has found courage to use her voice. We see her push back a bit on June, and it's terrifying. Not because the scene would be terrifying with Elisabeth, because I love Lizzie, but June is fucking scary. Yowza. So reading it the first time, I was like, I'm going to get killed. But I love the idea that Rita this season has set boundaries towards Serena Joy, not any spoilers, and boundaries towards June, and is finally coming to a place where she can accept her freedom. I find it's so difficult if you've been through a really hard time to, once the tides have turned, to finally accept happiness and to accept joy back into your life. And to play a character who's willing to do that and to sort of jeopardize certain friendships and still be brave enough to accept one's own happiness has been a beautiful ride.
Bradley, you've worked closely with Elisabeth on two groundbreaking series, West Wing and The Handmaid's Tale. I've heard you describe Lawrence as a character very much led by June, whether he realizes it or not. What is it like being led by Elisabeth in the director's chair?
Oh, wow. There's a really interesting, lovely thing. Makes me emotional in my life with her, because I met her when she was 17, and I think I was 19. No, and she was this confident, kind of, I call them ringers, like a day player who comes in, which being a day player in a series is harder than being a regular. And I just remember this poised kid in the kitchen, and then I get to meet this woman and have this incredible creative experience, and I'm so proud of her. It feels the way I feel about my grown kids. It's like I can't believe what you became, in the same way, she, I think Lawrence takes her in surprised with a little sort of arrogance and condescension, but ends up truly being led by her. And I come in as this older actor on this show, and I find myself creatively being inspired and led by. There's something about being an actor that. There's a lot of things about being an actor that's really kind of humiliating and corrosive. Because you're a pawn in a story, and you kind of develop this psychology of submission because you have to choose me, you know, and somebody has to write it, and then, oh, okay. And I get frustrated. Like, to see an actor, and I love actors, to see that, to see an actor saying, I can take what acting has given me, the instincts to know when a moment is working, and I can take more responsibility for the story, and to do it like that. Jesus Christ! So it's a wonderful thing.
Sam.
She's grumpy on the set, though.
Sam, question for you. Bradley was talking a little bit about, the role of a day player, and then, in terms of Elisabeth and West Wing. In some ways, you started off as a smaller character in this show, and you've expanded to a power player in this series, and with an incredible performance. And I wanted to ask just what that process has been like for you in terms of stepping into a larger role.
Well, like Bradley said, the day player role is the most thankless job in our industry.
He was in one scene.
I was.
He was written for one scene.
Season 2, and you just try to come into this well-oiled machine as a cog and not break it, and I didn't, thankfully. I mean, every day I come into work, this show is so astounding that I work harder at it just preparing because I know these fucking people are so talented. They are so talented. The writers are so talented that, you just don't want to drop the ball for any of them. And to be able to be on this stage with them is just one of the honors of my life. And so when I come to work, I'm so grateful to our cast and our crew that stood through such a dark, long winter to come out on this side and to be able to share it with you people. I couldn't ask for more. So that didn't answer your question whatsoever.
But it was a much better answer than I could imagine. A question for OT and Max. You've both been creators and directors in your own right. OT, ironically, with the series, Max.
Dedicated to Max Minghella.
Hope not. And Max with Teen Spirit, which played at TIFF in 2018. What have you both learned from Bruce and others on set over the last 5 years that you plan to apply potentially in future work?
Well, everyone is so generous here. Bruce very early on, I said, look, I want to learn. And he brought me into the edit and he showed me the edit. And I told him I want to learn how to write. And so he gave me tips on writing. And Warren has a book, which I read and I devoured. And then immediately I called him up and said, Warren, I read your book. And, and then this season I've been watching Lizzie do this masterclass, she's a savant of television. And again, being so generous and letting me come on recce's where you go check out the locations and talking about how process. And so, I don't know, it's been such an education for me. And, like everyone's been saying, we've got such an amazing writing crew and then our crew themselves and just, I don't know, yeah, it's just been an education for me. And so, I'm just very grateful for it.
Max, what about you?
Yeah, I was watching episode 1 and I kept thinking, fuck, Bruce Miller's a good writer. I'd like to be able to write a scene like that. To speak a little bit about working with Lizzie as a filmmaker, we're weird people. All of us up here are pretty eccentric, and we all have our own stuff, and our own particular psychologies and and egos and all of those things. And she is so elegant in the way that you'll see her just go from one to one. Often there's a scene in episode 2, there's like 11 of us in the scene. And she has to go and deal with all of us. And she does it effortlessly. And that's a really hard part of, directing. I've done it very, very briefly, but I think one of the hardest parts of it is the leadership aspect of it, and creating an environment where everyone feels not only good, but like they can do their best work. I'm so happy you said that stuff about Sam. I was watching his stuff in episode 1, and it's just it's unbelievable, this performance. And he's been brilliant before, but it was like, wow, Lizzie really has this ability to, I think, with all of us, sort of extract something really vulnerable. And so I've learned so much. I could keep going and blabbing on, but I've learned so much from everybody, and everybody's so nice on this show, and there's a kindness, and that's really valuable. That's more valuable than almost anything, and that's been wonderful to be around. Hopefully it'll rub off on me a little bit.
This is a question really for anyone who wants to take it. Margaret Atwood's novel and now the series has always been heralded as prescient, eerily predictive in many ways. It feels as though throughout the seasons of the show, these reflections of reality have only gotten stronger, especially in this last year. How is the series engaged with the changing realities of reproductive rights in the U.S.?
A lot of the stuff that's been happened after the show was finished this year. But I think that Margaret Atwood is really responsible for this. We're starting from territory that was predictive when it came out and predictive 30 years later. We've really relied on that. When you have Margaret Atwood to follow, you follow Margaret Atwood. And so I think the basis of that world, all those questions that and there weren't that many that she proposed about women and about reproductive rights and women and their bodily autonomy, all of them are still in play now, all of them. So I think it's really the prescience of Margaret Atwood and us kind of being comfortable, leaning on her story ability.
And has Margaret stayed involved in the series from day one, even through to this season?
Oh, absolutely. I'm having dinner with Margaret tomorrow night. We would have Margaret. Margaret's busier than all of us combined. Margaret is the busiest, she's been involved from the very beginning. I would have her more involved, but she does not have time for me. She's doing way too many things, writing books and all sorts of stuff. But yes, she's very involved, and I don't think we certainly wouldn't do something that she said, no, don't do that. But she never does. She, I think, is a fan of the show. I mean, it's kind of fun. You think up something, and then a whole bunch of other people say, well, maybe this would happen. So I think there's an entertainment aspect of that for her, and she thinks all these people are just amazing at what they do. So she loves that as well.
Question for Bruce and Warren. Since the first season of the show, it's clear you've been committed to bringing some incredible women directors to the series. Reed Morano, Carrie Scoglin, Emma Asante, and of course Elisabeth. How important has it been to have women behind the camera with this series?
Essential. We're not women. And so most of our department heads, so many of the key people who bring this show to life are women. Most of the writing staff is female. And so I think part of what we get to do with our success and the power that we've been given is to identify the next rising stars in our industry and open those doors because we should. And lo and behold, we get people like Lizzie. We get more and more people explode. Liz Garbus had not done much she did, Liz Garbus did the finale last year. Most of her work was in unscripted. Brilliant work in unscripted. She came to it with something to prove and walked into our show for the final episode of season 4, and it kind of seemed like she had been there forever. So she was given an opportunity and just seized it, got an Emmy nomination, and so that's what we need to remember. That's our job, is continue to open those doors and good things happen.
I would say we've been really lucky. I mean, they've been extraordinary, the directors we've had and the women we've brought on. It isn't, they're not the lucky ones, we're the lucky ones.
With that, I'm going to open it up to audience questions. So please raise your hands. I'm going to start. There's a question right here, directly in front of me, that's waving to me. Yes.
And it's so nice to see you in, like, clothes. We all have a question for you, and any of you can answer it. Most of you have been on for 5 seasons, and each season seems to, like, just blow you away, and then the next one comes and it blows you even farther away. So for us, we want to know which one was the most challenging for you personally? Like, which one really made you dig down deep?
So just so.
I love season 5.
Just so everyone could hear that question, the question was, what was the most challenging season that it caused you to really dig deep?
It's an easy one. Season 5. Season 5 was our most challenging season in a couple of ways. Obviously, we're still shooting during the pandemic, so there was a tremendous effort on behalf of our health and safety department to keep everybody working but also safe. I've never seen anything like it, and we did it, which is hats off to them. Yes. But it was also our biggest season on paper. People from Hulu can attest to that. It was our biggest and most challenging season as far as just the amount of people we hired, the amount of things that we did, the amount of things we tried to attempt, the scripts that were written for us that we had to pull off these incredible challenges. So yeah, season 5. Thank you.
I see a hand up here. Yeah, the waving hand.
Thank you so much. I just want to say how impressed I am with the picture, with the image, the art in these 2 episodes. Like, incredible work. And I also want to thank you for having such a diverse cast and really showcasing stories of immigrants and refugees the way that they are. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful work as an immigrant myself and feeling represented. My question is about trauma. I really love how you show the trauma and how trauma changed people for good and for bad. And I would love to hear your perspective in the writing on where you're going to take in that story of trauma, and 2, how you nuance your performance as actors, that you see that little glimpse of happiness in the most painful process or moments in the show.
So just so everyone heard that, the question is around trauma, and I guess trauma from the perspective of the creators, but also trauma from the perspective of the performers and how you deal with that in your performances.
I don't find working on the show very traumatic. It's nice. I think the biggest thing that we do is research. I mean, the show is about trauma, and the world of trauma is complicated, and it's incredibly personal to people, but there's lots of people who are willing to talk to us about it. And so that, I think, is the biggest thing, is to do research so that you're not making a fake show about people who are having real problems, because those people are watching too. But also, I think the biggest thing that we do is show that it doesn't get turned off. It takes a long time. It's an ongoing process. So I think that June in season 5 is really dealing with June versus Offred. She's still dealing with her trauma and trying to decide whether, do I want to be Offred and kill more people in the woods, or do I want to be June and go to the ballet? So I think but I think that we do research and communicate, I hope, with all of you guys about what those things really feel like from the people who went through them, because thank God, I don't know.
Any additions from the performers in terms of trauma in the series? It's okay if not. Okay. We have time for one more audience question. I see a gentleman in the center right there.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for screening the show here. I've been watching for years. I've been like strolling through the Toronto streets, seeing you guys, being like, oh my god, it's like fun. My question was about the follow-up novel that has come out since you guys started shooting the show, The Testaments. I'm wondering, writers, for you guys, has that sort of changed the trajectory of your writing or your performances? Like, has it informed it, or are you still kind of, playing within, not separate, but the world that you started working in?
I am thinking about the Testaments in terms of what I'm doing here to try not to, make it so it's impossible to do, to kill people off who we would need. And certainly when Margaret started to write it, she gave me a list of people I was not allowed to kill. And also a list of names certain people had to have. But fortunately, Margaret's been talking to me about it for a few years, so the stuff that was going to be the precursor to the Testaments was already being incorporated in our show. Just naturally, we were talking about the character of Lydia, and those conversations just turned into what the show was about. But the show and the book, The Handmaid's Tale, are a little bit different, and the Testaments as well. The book definitely follows the book, and the show hopefully will follow the show.
I love the idea of a don't kill list. Bruce, as we close this screening and Q&A, I wanted to throw it back to you for an announcement.
Our Hulu and MGM partners here. Thanks to our Hulu and MGM partners, we are been renewed for a 6th and final season.
I feel like they missed one word.
I think you missed one bit. It's also the final season. The 6 is the end of it.
But it was renewed.
So thank you all for watching, and for Hulu and MGM. I don't know if you can. The fact that I can get up here and just say casually that our show is renewed for season 6 is a miracle. So thank you guys so much for the confidence and all the money.
And I just want to say there are a lot of our crew is in the audience tonight. I see Tom Henderson, our gaffer. Leslie, our costume supervisor, is here. I know Kim, Todd, our EP. I'm sure John's here. Our writing staff is here. I just want to give them a big round of applause.
Please stand.
Well, thank you to the entire Handmaids team for joining us and being a part of this on opening day of TIFF. It's an honor, and thanks so much.